welcome again to the Medical Terminology Podcast. This episode is Chapter 8, Part 4, Procedures. In this last episode for Chapter 8, I'm going to go over both the diagnostic and treatment procedures that again are most commonly missed on tests or otherwise seem to be pretty challenging. I'm only going to hit these high points, and again, you're responsible for studying the remainder of the material in the chapter. Here we go. Part 1, Diagnostic Procedures. The first one I have for you is cholangiography. 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 This is a radiographic study of bile ducts using a contrast medium, and it's used to identify obstructions in the bile ducts. And if you remember, radiographic study means X-ray. Now this is a tricky word just because it's long and it can be intimidating with the spelling, but again, remember to parse the parts down, use your rules for joining word parts, and you shouldn't have any trouble. If you look at it, it's got three major parts. It's got chole, C-H-O-L-E. It's got angio, A-N-G-I-O. And then it's got graphy, G-R-A-P-H-Y. Chole refers to what? Remember that one? Chole refers to bile. Angio refers to normally that refers to vessel. When you have the chole and angio together, chole-angio, remember that's bile duct. And then finally you have graphy, G-R-A-P-H-Y. And what does graphy mean? Well, graphy, remember, is the process of recording. So we're recording the bile ducts, radiographic study of the bile ducts. Okay, the next one I have for you tends to be missed on tests. I'm not really sure why. Maybe it just gets understudied. I'm not really sure. But the next one is upper GI series. Upper is U-P-P-E-R, GI, capital G-I, and then series, S-E-R-I-E-S. This is also referred to as a barium swallow. Barium is spelled B-A-R-I-U-M, and swallow is S-W-A-L-L-O-W. Now, in this procedure, a patient drinks liquid barium, and then X-rays are taken of the upper GI tract. The barium is radioactive. It enables the imaging to come through clearer. It makes the upper GI tract show up to the X-rays, basically. So upper GI series or a barium swallow is going to be looking at the upper GI tract. Now there's a related procedure that's called a lower GI series. Again, that's lower, L-O-W-E-R, GI, capital G-I, and series, S-E-R-I-E-S. It's also referred to as a barium enema, B-A-R-I-U-M, and then enema is E-N-E-M-A. In this case, the patient is given a barium enema, and then X-rays are taken of the lower GI tract. And again, the enema acts as a contrast medium. The next term is colonoscopy, C-O-L-O-N-O-S-C-O-P-Y. And notice this uses the word part colono plus scopy. And remember, when we're using the suffix scopy, what does that refer to? Well, that's visual examination, usually using an endoscope. So colonoscopy is a visual examination of the inner surface of the entire colon, from the rectum to the cecum. A related procedure that's not quite as involved is a sigmoidoscopy, S-I-G-M-O-I-D And based on its word parts, what would you think that means? Well, sigmoid or sigmoido refers to the sigmoid colon. Scopy, again, is visual examination. So this is a visual examination of the interior of the rectum and the sigmoid colon, and perhaps a portion of the descending colon. It's like a colonoscopy, except instead of looking at the whole colon, you're just looking at the lowest part of it. And finally, we have a term that is a little tricky to spell. It's hemoccult. Hemoccult. Hemoccult is a laboratory test for occult or hidden blood in a stool sample. This term is a combination of the word parts hemo, Hem/O, plus occult, Occult. When it comes to the spelling, it sure is tempting to put a double O in there, but using our words for combining vowels, we have to drop one of those O's, so it's just hemoccult, not hemoccult. And again, occult means hidden blood. And this test tests stools for hidden blood, which might be a sign of colon cancer or some other disease. Okay, well, that's it for the diagnostic procedures. Now we've got some treatment procedures. And the first one is a gastrostomy tube. Gastrostomy, and then tube. And this is similar to thoracostomy tube that we talked about in the chapter on the respiratory system. A thoracostomy tube was a permanent tube to provide drainage out of the chest. Well, a gastrostomy tube is also a surgically placed tube that is going from the exterior of the body to the stomach. Again, that ostomy is a permanent or surgically made opening between the exterior of the body and somewhere inside the body. In this case, a gastrostomy is going from the exterior of the body to the stomach. And the purpose of this one is not drainage, but rather it's a way of providing nutrition to patients who cannot take nutrients by mouth. So it's a way of feeding patients, putting nutrients directly into the stomach. The next one is a frightening one to spell. It can be intimidating, but again, we want to use our word parts to figure it out. The word is gastroduodenostomy. 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 Okay, what is this, first of all? It's the establishment of an anastomosis between the upper portion of the stomach and the duodenum. What is an anastomosis? Anastomosis, Anastomosis, is a connection between two hollow or tubular structures. In this case, the hollow or tubular structures is the upper portion of the stomach and the duodenum. Now, if we parse this, we can see it. This is composed of the word part gastro, Gastr/O, duodeno, Duoden/O, and then ostomy, Ostomy. And so we have the word parts gastro for stomach, duodeno for the duodenum, and ostomy meaning a surgical connection. Gastroduodenostomy. And again, the key idea to identify this one is we're making an anastomosis, which is a connection between hollow tubular structures, and it's between the stomach and the duodenum. Now, the next two I've got for you tend to be easily confused. The first one of these two is colectomy, Colectomy, and this is the surgical removal of the colon. That's pretty straightforward. Ectomy means surgical removal. Now, we're not saying anything else about the process. We're simply removing part of the colon. We're probably stitching things back together, closing the patient up. colectomy, surgical removal of the colon. But then the next term is the one that causes folks trouble, and that is colostomy. Colostomy. Now again, ostomy means what? Well, that's creating the surgical opening between the exterior of the body or the body surface and something. So a colostomy is going to create an opening between the colon and the body surface. Now, where people get into trouble with this is not only are we making that connection, but usually we're doing it because we're having to remove part of the colon and we cannot route the plumbing the way it normally goes through the rectum. So a colostomy involves surgical removal of the colon. People see that and immediately think colectomy, and they may be wrong. You have to read the whole thing. So we'll have surgical removal with the colostomy, but then we're going to do an additional step. And that is whatever end piece we've got left, connecting that between the colon and the body surface. Now, the other thing that we have to look out for is that colostomies are named for the part of the colon removed. There's a diagram in the textbook that shows this, and for some reason, students tend to go by that. Remember, you always want to study diagrams and tables because they have terms in them. So I'm going to give you a couple examples here that are there in the book. First of all, we can have a sigmoid colostomy. sigmoidcolostomy. A sigmoid colostomy means that we're going to remove the sigmoid colon and the stoma, or that opening from the end of the colon to the surface of the body, is going to be placed at the end of the descending colon. From the descending colon downward is removed. So the colon basically is going to end after the descending colon. So that's where the stoma is going to be. For another example, we could have a descending colostomy. And again, descending is descending, and colostomy is colostomy. Well, in this case, we're going to remove back to the descending colon. So we're going to take out the sigmoid colon and the descending colon. And then the stoma is going to be placed at the end of the transverse colon. The descending and sigmoid are gone. It just ends at the transverse, and that's where the stoma is going to be. Okay, so that's important to remember, is that if we're just concerned with surgical removal of the colon and creation of an opening, that's in general colostomy. But if we know that we're dealing with a certain part of the colon being removed and then the stoma being put in place, then we need to be sure to label it specifically according to what's being taken out. Okay, and the next one involves a couple of new word parts for this chapter, and that is proctopexy. Proctopexy. And do you remember what procto and pexy mean? Well, procto refers to rectum, and pexy means surgical fixation. So in this case, we have the surgical fixation of a rectum, and usually this is necessary because the rectum has prolapsed. Prolapsed is prolapsed, and that's when a body part will basically sink down out of its position. The rectum would have sunk down and is probably sticking out through the anus. So a surgeon would have to go in and surgically pull it back up and tie it up so it's fixated where it's supposed to be. Okay, and the last three terms we have here relate to procedures for the gallbladder. And again, these can be a little tricky because of the spelling and the word parts. The next one is cholecystectomy. Cholecystectomy. And based on its word parts, what would that mean? Well, cholecysto refers to gallbladder, and ectomy refers to removal. So this is surgical removal of the gallbladder. And again, if you remember your word parts and how to spell them, you can put this together even though it looks kind of long and scary. Now the next term is related, and it is a laparoscopic cholecystectomy. Laparoscopic is LAPAROSCOPIC, and laparoscopic means that we're using a laparoscope. And again, we have cholecystectomy, CHOLECYSTECTOMY. And this is sometimes abbreviated lap-choley, and that would be spelled LAP-CHOLEY. Well, lap-choley or laparoscopic cholecystectomy would be the surgical removal of the gallbladder, but this time we're using a laparoscope. So instead of having to cut the patient open wide, we can instead use a laparoscope, which is a small lighted tube, and this would involve several small incisions that would quickly heal, as opposed to one big one. And the third one we have here, relating to the gallbladder, again can be a little intimidating if you look at it, and that's coledocholithotomy. Let's break that one down. We've got choledocho, CHOLEDOCH/O. We've got lith, LITH, and we've got otomy, OTOMY. Now, lithotomy, if we put those two together, refers to what? Well, a lithotomy is a surgical incision for the removal of stones. Then we have to look at the first part, choledocho. Do you remember what choledocho refers to? Choledocho refers to the common bile duct. So a choledocholithotomy is an incision into the common bile duct for the removal of gallstone. Okay, well that covers the material for the procedures. So now we're going to do some practice over these. Number 1, what is the term for the establishment of an anastomosis between the upper portion of the stomach and the duodenum? That's the gastroduodenostomy. 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 And what is the term for the radiographic study of the lower gastrointestinal tract? That would be a lower GI series or a barium enema. What is the term for the surgical removal of gallstones from the common bile duct? We just looked at that one. That is the colectocolithotomy. CHOLEDOCHOLITHOTOMY. What is the term for a test for hidden blood in a stool sample? That is hemoccult, HEMOCCULT. 2 points to remember. It favors hemo as the combining form for blood, and we got to be sure to drop one of those O's. It's really tempting to say the O, like hemoccult, and it's also really tempting to leave the O in there when you're spelling it. What is the medical term for a surgically implanted feeding tube? Well, that is the gastrostomy tube. GASTROSTOMY, and then tube, TUBE. What is the term for the visual examination of the entire colon? That's the colonoscopy, COLONOSCOPY. And again, on this one, remember this favors colono as the combining form, not colo. Okay, and what is the term for the radiographic study of the bile ducts using a contrast medium in order to identify obstructions? That's cholangiography, CHOLANGIOGRAPHY, cholangiography. What is the term for the radiographic study of the upper gastrointestinal tract? Well, that's the upper GI series. It's also referred to as a barium swallow. What is the medical term for the surgical fixation of a prolapsed rectum? That's the proctopexy, PROCTOPEXY. What is the term for the procedure in which the sigmoid colon is removed and the remaining colon attached to the outside of the body through a stoma? That is a sigmoid colostomy, SIGMOID, and then colostomy, COLOSTOMY. What is the term for the surgical removal of the gallbladder? That's a cholecystectomy, CHOLECYSTECTOMY. And what is the term for the surgical removal of part or all of the colon? Didn't say anything about a stoma there, so this is just a colectomy. COLECTOMY. Again, a colostomy would be surgical removal, but there would also be the creation of an opening between the colon and the body surface. Okay, well, that covers it for the procedures in Chapter 8. I again wish you good luck on your test, and you can also pat yourself on the back because now you've made it halfway through the book. You've covered 8 chapters, you've got 7 left to go. This ends this episode of the Medical Terminology Podcast.